What is self-consciousness? Well, there's obviously two words here, self and consciousness. Consciousness is simply being aware of something or experiencing something. The qualitative feel of a pain, of pleasure, that's the content of consciousness. So if we say that a simple animal compared to a human, simple animal like, let's say, a mouse, is conscious, then we assume that the mouse is somewhat like, has a certain qualitative feel to be this mouse. How does it feel to be this mouse? How is it like to be this mouse? And this mouse would have feelings like fear, like pleasure, good food, like pain if it got hurt. There is not yet a reflective or rational sense of self here in the mouse. The mouse could not use the personal pronoun I. The mouse doesn't have a first-person perspective. It could not look at a mirror and realize that's me, because it lacks the idea of me. But it would still have a certain basic selfhood, because in order to have a feeling, there has to be something, a self, that has that feeling. There are no free-floating feelings in the universe, and there's no one who's having them. It belongs to the nature, the intrinsic nature of a feeling, that it is a feeling that's being had by someone. So even the mouse has a self in that sense, because the feelings of the mouse are being had by someone. The mouse. The self of the mouse. If we talk about self-consciousness, we talk usually about a more elaborate sense of self. And this comes into play if something that has a basic self, like in the case of the mouse, and then reflects upon this. For example, if I have certain feelings, pain or pleasure, and then I reflect upon my having this pain, and maybe like a Spartan, I say, I don't want to show this pain. I'm reacting to it, reflecting about it, about my pain, and I develop a certain attitude towards that pain, or a certain desire I have, and I judge it to be immoral and I don't want to act upon it. That's a typical self-conscious loop of reflection. A being that is able to reflect upon its own conscious states. This reflection, higher order reflection upon my own conscious states, is the hallmark of self-consciousness. A being that is able to do this develops the idea of me, myself, can use the personal pronoun I, and is able to detect or recognize myself in the mirror. This capacity of reflectively realizing that I am a self presupposes the basic, simple, pre-theoretical self, which I talked about earlier. Because in order to discover that a certain feeling is mine, and then I reflect about it, I have to already know what it is that this is my feeling. I have to distinguish it from the feelings of others. I have to have a basic, rudimentary notion of what is mine. I reflect upon my feelings and I identify them. So there is a pre-conceptual, pre-theoretical sense of self there, upon which the reflective self, which we call the self-consciousness, then reflects. So self-consciousness is just a very special case, a higher order, complex case of the basic conscious notion of self, which we find not only in the human sphere, but among higher animals. When we have this reflective self-consciousness, we enter the human sphere and we enter the sphere of persons. That is, entities that have a first-person perspective and can enter into second-personal relationships with other persons.